What is up, hammerheads? Welcome back to the Forge. Today, we're getting hammered again. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so why am I doing another hammered video? Well, when I was up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at Cannonsburg, the town, and if you haven't watched that video of just me walking around the little town of Cannonsburg, really cool place, really cool destination to go up and just check out. They do some really cool guided tours. I'm going to help grow that place the best I can because it is amazingly cool how that is set up. Takes you back to like the 1700s kind of set up in a way, or 1800s, you know, set up. So it's really cool. But while I was up there during the hammer-in and blacksmith competition, I was talking with one of the channel subscribers, and he asked me, he said, how can you use a hammer so short? You know, and it really kind of hit me. It's like I've never actually explained why my hammer is set up the way it's set up. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So when you buy a Pettinghaus hammer, and that's what my hammer is a Pettinghaus. Besides it looking kind of rough, this is the hammer. This is what you get. It's a very thick handle, standard head, and it is, I think, let me grab my measure here, roughly about 14 inches long. When I first bought this hammer, or bought my hammer, this one's Jay's. When I first bought it, I left everything the same. Now, originally, this was my hammer. It was from Harbor Freight. I cut the handle off a little bit, but the handle itself wasn't super long anyways, or it might have been way long. It was weird. I got it on clearance, so I might have cut it off just so it was not as cumbersome, because it might have been, you know, 18 inches or something. I can't remember. It's been 15 years ago. But this was my hammer. And I actually, backstory on that, I lost it because I threw it in a bag to take it to use somewheres, and it wasn't what I typically carried my tools in. Sorry guys, sinuses. And I was talking to my wife and said, hey, can I order a hammer? Because a good friend of mine had let me try his out years before, or a little bit before, and he said, and I told her, I said, I need a proper blacksmithing hammer. I didn't know what I knew back then. I didn't know. I was very naive in my thinking on that, because any hammer can be used for blacksmithing. I've seen guys use claw hammers, as long as it doesn't have the teeth on them, like on the end of a framing hammer to help grip the nail, I guess. But any hammer, from a ball peen to anything, as long as you can hammer with it, you can forge with it. But I was very naive in my thinking. But I ordered my hammer, which came like this. Now, when I first started using it, I tried to hammer back here like you're supposed to, supposedly. And it was just very weird, because when I would go to hammer, it was like, I liked being over my work, and I felt like I couldn't control it as easy. So I started gravitating more towards about the center, a little bit above, and I liked how that felt. Well, I noticed I never dropped beyond this point. Every time I hammered, no matter what I was doing, I never dropped beyond this point. And as I grew in my advancement in blacksmithing, I noticed I grabbed way up high when I'm doing finials, and I started noticing this portion started hitting me. Like it would hit my hand, it would hit things in front of me. It was very cumbersome. So I figured out exactly where I wanted where my hand landed. Grab mine, and I held it exactly at the lowest point I thought it would be, and I cut it off, rounded up, and I used that hammer with the handle for many years until I broke it. And the reason why, like I said, that was the main reason why I cut the handle off, is because it was just cumbersome and in my way. But now I actually have the style that I hammer in, and to try to hammer and forge with a long handle, it's awkward for me now. So that's the main reason why my hammer is so short. At my hammer handle, say that 3 times real fast, is only 7 inches long, because I don't use anything below that. And I mainly, when I'm forging, anything that I forge, I mainly stay right here, and it fits perfect in my hand. So that is the reason why it's the length that it is. I grab the head of the head a lot of the hammer while I'm doing finials and things like that, and it was just so much easier for me to move it around in my hand. And the way it's weighted, I feel like I can actually hammer very hard, and sometimes even harder than people that have the longer handle. Now, it might just be the way I think to make myself feel better. This is the way that I am. And the main reason why this video is because I wanted you to know, you set this up the way you want to set it up. This is your hammer. This is what you're going to be using. Buy the one that you like. Use the one that you like. I've seen too many blacksmiths and people out there saying, oh, you need to have a rounding hammer, or you need to have a Swedish hammer, you need to have a French hammer, you buy what's comfortable for you, because then you'll use it. And the only way I can explain it, and I used to explain this whenever I used to sell pew-pews when I worked at Bass Pro. Buying a pew-pew, I don't want to say the other things, I won't get canceled, is like buying a pair of shoes. What works great for somebody else might not work good for you. And if it's not comfortable to use, if you don't like the way it feels, you're never going to use it. Now, if you like the head design, but you don't like the handle design, change out the handle. Because when this handle broke from the original Pettinghaus, I actually don't like those handles at all. This is just a standard wooden framing hammer handle. I think this is my second framing hammer handle I put in here. I'm saying a lot of confusing words. Sorry if I get tongue-tied, guys. I like the size of this handle because my hand wraps all the way around it in all spots. The only spot it is a little bit wide is back here, but my thumb and my forefinger make a really good connection, and I feel like I got a good grip on it. Now, I don't hold my hammer this tight when I'm hammering. I'm going to talk about technique here in a minute. But whenever I'm holding the Pettinghaus, it's more oblong, and it doesn't fit my hand right whenever I'm hammering. It just feels weird. And a lot of it is I haven't used this hammer, this style handle, in a very long time, but it just feels weird in my hand. So whenever I go to hammer, this just doesn't feel right, and I can't get feel like I have a really good grip around it. My hands aren't super big, they're about medium size, so I like having a little bit thinner handle with a little bit of a swell back here in the back, because I feel like it catches my hand while I'm hammering. But I changed this one out. It's probably been 10 years ago, and the first one I put in, I think there was a defect in it because it broke. But again, cut it off, got everything set the way I like it, and this is how I use it. Now, my technique is I don't really put my thumb on top. Every once in a while I catch myself doing that. I think that's from driving nails for so many years, building things. But I always make a full fist around my hammer. And I keep it, I don't squeeze tight. I've seen guys that look like they're going to put fingerprints inside their hammer handles when they're hammering, because they're squeezing so tight when they're hitting. My hammer stays loose in my hand. So, I mean, it's this. You know, there's gap. I mean, really. It's about like this right here, where it's loose in my hand. And my technique is similar to your Hoffy's technique, where you hold the hammer loose, but I feel like I get more momentum as I'm hitting it being a little bit looser in my hand, because it kind of falls back a little bit. When I go forward, it pushes it forward down. I don't know the science behind it. This is just what I do, and this is what I developed over the years. I rarely, if I feel myself starting to tighten up, like if I'm having a bad day, and I get up here and I just feel my hand and I just tighten up, my forearm will cramp right through here. from hammering, and I realize that I'm not doing the technique right. And it's like I said, it's something that I've come up with. I'm nobody special. I'm not saying this is the way to smith. This is what I do that feels good to me and works well for me. Will I grip the hammer a little bit tighter? Yeah, if I'm doing detail work, I'll tighten up a little bit because I'm down here close and I'm not hammering as hard. But generally, if I'm forging, like making leaves or whatever, if you watch it, I rarely hold it tight. It's generally pretty loose in my hand. And my hammer itself, let me turn the camera around. If I set it on my hardy hole for a second, if you look, my hammer is pretty well balanced. It goes down a little bit, but if it's pretty well almost balanced where it needs to be. And like I said, if I set it on my hardy hole, it'll sit pretty much perfect. But it's balanced very well for me. And that's the other reason why I like how it's set. Sorry guys, there's a bunch of coyotes howling. I'm gonna stop for just a second and make sure nothing's gonna try to get my chickens. All right guys, so as I was saying, you buy whatever hammer it is you like. It doesn't matter what any YouTuber says, doesn't matter what anybody tells you. Now, take advice, because if you're gonna be forging and you decide you wanna use this 8-ounce ball peen hammer, you're gonna be hammering for a really long time on a piece of 3/8 bar to make a leaf versus not as many hits. So use the appropriate tool for the job. But if you enjoy using, you can see how long I've used this one, guys. I got spider webs on it. The spider's been bad at y'all's forges. They have like almost overran my entire shop this year. But if you use a ball peen hammer this size, you can do a whole lot of forging with that. That's a lot heavier head. So use the appropriate tool for the job. Now, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna tell you this is the hammer that you need to use. This is the hammer that I use. And if you want me to, guys, I'll leave a link in my description to Blacksmith Depot, because that's where I ordered mine from. They're not affiliated with my page, but they're a great group of people in North Carolina where their shop is, and they have always done right by me and Jay and Mike. So I'm gonna send anybody that way that I can send that way. So I'll leave a link in the description to where you can find this hammer. Actually, I'm just gonna have their hammer page. I will say, I would get, like this one's 1,000 grams. I think it's grams is how they do it, 1,000 grams. Don't get an 8 or 9 ounce. Get at least a pound head, because I'm pretty sure that's what this is, a pound, pound and a half head. Don't get anything smaller than that as a forging hammer. Now, for fine detail work, for different things, I have tons of hammers to do a lot of stuff with. I even have a little sledge with a longer handle if I need it. But I rarely use it. I have heavier hammers for other stuff, but this is my forging hammer. This is what I go to. So go check them out, guys, and pick if you're going to buy a hammer. Now, I will eventually forge a hammer and do a video on it. I just don't have any need to. I'm not going to make hammers and sell them. That's not a desire in my heart to do. But I will eventually forge a rounding hammer because I want one, and I feel like it's a good hammer to do a video on. We will do that later because I gotta get the drifts and everything. But I wanted to talk, like I said, guys, I want to do a video talking about why my hammer is set up the way it is, and don't conform to like what everybody else is doing. Like I said, a hammer is like buying a pair of shoes. Just because a pair of shoes might work amazing for somebody else does not mean it's going to work great for you. So if you like a bigger handle and you like it long handle like this, use it. If you want it shorter, use a shorter one. It doesn't matter. Just whatever it is to get you out there and hammer, do it. But guys, if you got any more questions or comments, let me know. I tried to cover everything and not take up 2 hours talking about it, because I could talk about my hammer all day. It's a pretty hammer. It's my hammer. But I wanted to get that out there, guys. I use this setup because that's what works for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you have to have. You know, as I've said many times, use what you have and make it work for you. And that's what I did with my hammer. Trying to think, guys. I think that's everything that I have to cover on it. If you have any questions, by all means, shoot me a message. Sorry I rambled on some of it. But dang, I lost my train of thought. I heard some coyotes a few minutes ago, and I've been listening for them because I had one get a couple of my chickens the other week. So sorry, I'm a little distracted on that when I hear noises. But yeah, again, guys, if you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave them in the comments section. I will leave a link to Blacksmith Depot on their hammer page, so you know this is where I got it, and I trust them. They're good people. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, guys. I am doing my best to try to hit 1,000 subscribers by mid next year. So if I can get that done, that'll be awesome. That is my goal. I'm at 610, I think, or 611 subscribers. Thank you guys for all that. I will be at Prater's Meal the 14th of October, and I will be at Hamilton County Fair November, Veterans Day weekend. I can't remember the exact date, but I know it's Veterans Day weekend. So I will be at Hamilton County Fair those days. I will also be set up the week after that, Wednesday and Thursday, at Audubon Acres in Chattanooga, Tennessee, doing Pioneer Days. I'm not going to be dressed in Pioneer apparel because I don't have all that, but I will be set up doing demos and talking to people. So if y'all want to stop by to any one of those and say, hey, come out, holler at me. And again, you can find merch on my TikTok shop and on my actual website. But again, understand I'm moving away from the website, where it's just going to be on my Etsy page and my TikTok page, because it's just too much to keep up with everything. And it's easier to set up the shipment and everything on those pages versus what I have. So that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one. God bless, and keep hammering.